Oh, hello! Welcome in! I thought it would be fun to do like a chatty little story time while I show you guys my manga collection, explain how I got the things I have, and the memories and stories behind them. This is going to be a cozy video, so go ahead and get yourself a pillow. Here you go. And here's a blanket for you. And a warm drink, one for me, one for you. There you go. Careful, tot. And now that you're all cozy, let's go ahead and start this manga collection video. But before we get started, I have an important question to ask. Do you like cute things? Well, today's sponsor, Yume Twins, has got you covered. Yume Twins is a monthly kawaii subscription box filled with cute trending items straight from Japan, ranging from plushies, squishies, daily practical goods, and stationery. This month's theme is Pokepal's Cozy Escape, perfect for Pokemon lovers. I absolutely adored this relaxing Pokemon Steam eye mask. It was like a mini vacation in one cute package. If you know me, you know I love a cute cup, and this cup is perfect for a relaxing iced matcha. And just look at how cute this Piplup plush pouch is. It is so soft and fluffy, and it can clip to your bag or backpack to give a nice cute touch. Each box also comes with a surprise stackable basket. It's great for organizing, and it can add a cute touch to your workspace. And all of these items are adorable and perfect for a relaxing reading session. If you would like to get your own Yume Twins box or gift one to a loved one, you can get $5 off using the link in my description box along with my coupon code MangaCaptor. So go ahead and treat yourself to a dose of cuteness. Thank you again to Yume Twins for sponsoring this video. Now let's go ahead and check out my manga collection. Alright, so first up is what's on top of my shelf, which I'm calling my Clamp Shrine. This is all of the Clamp manga I have physically, but I also have a good amount digitally since a lot of their stories are out of print. So the series that started it all for me was XXX Holic. This was the first Clamp series I ever read. I had heard about this series through a couple YouTubers that were talking about Clamp and how famous they are, and I decided to give this series a try. So I started picking up the series physically in this omnibus format. So I have volumes 1 and volume 2 of this series physically, but I switched over to digital because these are just hard to find, and it was hard to receive a physical copy that didn't have damage, as you can see there. So I moved over to digital. However, I did find this single physical volume at a Half Price Books when I was on a road trip. I was out in St. Louis having a great time, and I stopped by a used bookstore and saw this and just decided to pick it up because I love this series so much. It would be great to have all of the physical single volumes. I also have volume 1 and volume 2 of Gate 7. This is a series that is very out of print. I picked up both volumes from thrift books used, and I purchased the last two digitally because they were on sale. I just love Clamp so much. I love their art style, so that's what really pulled me towards this series. I also have Wish Complete, which I am very happy about. I have volumes 1, volume 2, volume 3, and volume 4. The majority of these I got from thrift books, and one of them I got from Pango Books. I'm so happy I picked up this series. This is one of my favorite Clamp series of all time. I think it's phenomenal. I think the story is great for only being 4 volumes long. And yeah, I'm just so happy I was able to find these copies used because they are out of print. I also have Tokyo Babylon 1 through 4. These are the premium editions, and I got this one here from a visit to the bookstore. I don't go to the bookstore often, so I really treasure the books that I got physically because there's just something about it. It's so much nicer to go to a physical store and purchase a volume rather than get them online, but you do what you gotta do. This is a series that a lot of people were really hyping up and very excited about the reprints. So I just jumped on board and picked up these volumes. So far I am enjoying the story, and yeah, I love having this in my collection. I love how bright the covers are and how they just pop with all that color. Here's volume 3. and volume 4, which has to be like one of my favorite covers. The day that I got this volume was such a good day because I had just gotten like a haircut that I really liked and I felt so confident, and when I came back home I had this waiting for me and some other fun stuff happened that day, and yeah, I just look at this volume and I think of those good memories. And now moving on to the contents inside these bookshelves, this first cube right here is very special, and that's because Full Metal Alchemist was the first series I ever got into very deeply. Now, I've talked about it before, but I only got into manga somewhat recently, and Full Metal Alchemist was what started it all, honestly. I think if not for Full Metal Alchemist, I wouldn't have this YouTube channel. One day I went to my local library and I was just looking for something to read, and I went over to the young adult section, which is where they have graphic novels and manga, and I saw that they had the first 5 volumes of this series, and I'd heard so much about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna check them out. I checked out the only 5 volumes that they had, literally read them so quick, and I knew that I wanted the whole series. Not much later, I received a gift card from a family member and I was able to purchase the entire series. I got my first ever box set and I read this series like crazy. At the time that I was reading this, I worked morning shifts and I would get up really early and I would read like 2 volumes before I went to work because I just needed to know what was going to happen in the story, and I just kept doing that, and not much later I finished the entire thing. I was obsessed. I love it, and yeah, I'm just so happy that I have this here. So as you can see, I have the entire series stacked up back here. I have 1 through 18 in the back, and then it continues up until 27, and I got this old copy of the series volume 2, and I picked it up because it has like this foil cover that I thought was really cool, and it also has like this older Viz logo, which I thought was interesting, and also the little action logo, which is also funny to me. But yeah, I adore this series. I like to have this volume here as kind of like a display, and yeah, as you can see, I also use cardboard boxes to lift this stuff up. You don't need anything fancy for your manga collection, guys. Just reuse the things you have already and it's gonna work great. So also included in the box set was this Full Metal Alchemist light novel, which I thought was okay, not my favorite thing ever. So it's safe to say that Full Metal Alchemist made me a lifelong fan of Hiromu Arakawa, and when I found out that she had a new series, I immediately jumped on it. I remember the day that I went to go get this volume, I went to a Barnes & Noble, and I was just so excited to see it there in person. It was one of the last few copies left, and I snagged it immediately. I have like the same story with this second volume. It was one of the last ones there at the bookstore, and I was just so happy to pick it up. I, like I've mentioned before, love being able to shop in person. I don't do that as often as I'd like, but it's a really nice experience. But either way, I'm happy that I have all of these volumes. I'm really enjoying the story so far. It's just great to get a new Hiromu Arakawa story. So I'm sure you were able to tell that this entire area is shonen, and the shonen manga also moves over to this cube up next. So here we have more shonen, but let me go ahead and move these so you can see what's in the back. So here's a nice look at what I have in the back row. I have volumes 1 through 12 of Spy Family. I also have volume 12, but it's unread on my TBR cart, which I'll go ahead and show you my TBR cart as well at some point in this video. But Spy Family is a series that I got into because one of my family members got a free Hulu subscription and they shared their password, and I started watching Spy Family and I was just obsessed. I knew that I just had to like read the manga. So I literally stopped watching the anime and instead started reading the manga, and it is just one of my favorite shonen series ever. It's really fun, really great. I don't really need to explain it that much. It is wildly popular. I also picked up the Spy Family official guide, which has a lot of really nice artwork on the inside. I also have volume 1 of Shoha Shoten. This was the first manga volume that was gifted to me. So one of my friends went to a convention and they brought back a bunch of gifts for everyone, and this is what my gift was. I just am so happy to have this in my collection. It's a nice little memento of those memories and how fun it was to receive gifts. It's always so nice when someone goes on a trip and brings you something back. I also have volume 1 of Akane Banashi. I haven't read the next ones, but my local library has all of them, so I'm not stressing over that. But this is a series that was like so popular, so many people were talking about it. Ever since then, it's kind of died down, but I picked it up because there was all of that hype surrounding it. So this next one is a fun one. This is Dragon Drive Volume 1, and it's not my favorite volume in my collection by any stretch. But I've kept it because it has like really good memories associated with it. So my local library was having a library sale, and I kind of just mentioned briefly to one of my friends that, oh, I hope they have manga. And one day he happened to find this volume along with some comic books and held them off for me to look at. I checked them out and decided to purchase this Dragon Drive volume because I thought it was interesting, and it was only 50 cents, and I just like to keep it as like a reminder that there are people that genuinely care for me and think of me, and it's just really sweet. So I have this as that kind of like memento. And next up we have volumes 1 and 2 of Así Habló Kishibe Rohan. So I was able to purchase volumes 1 and 2 used, and oh my god, these covers are so stunning. These have to be my favorite covers. Like out of everything I have, like these might be the ones. I just love how they look like magazines. I got these volumes because I was watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I was watching the episode where our character Kishibe Rohan is introduced, and I love him. I love morally gray characters, which I don't know what that says about me, but don't worry about it. His introduction is just so interesting. It's so much fun. I love his character, his personality, and I immediately was like, I need to get every spin-off manga that features him. So I did. I also have Rohan at the Louvre, which is this like large oversized print hardcover volume that's really nice. And our shonen manga collection continues and ends with Bless. Bless is a series that I heard about through Reddit. Yes, sometimes I'm on Reddit. I was just looking for some manga recommendations. I wanted something fresh, something interesting that I hadn't heard of, and I found it. So this is a series about makeup, and I just completely fell in love with it. Alright, and now we're moving from shonen to video game adaptations. I love video games. I love video games so much. I've contemplated doing like let's play videos or like video game streams or whatever because it's one of my favorite hobbies. So something about me that is very important is that I love Persona, and Persona 3 is my favorite Persona game. I haven't been able to play Persona 3 Reload, but the day that I do, oh my gosh, you won't see me again for like a month. I found this used, and I believe that this is like a Loot Crate edition, so it has this special little cover, and you know, I love the game, but the manga's okay, but I have it here to really just show my love for this game. Another important thing about me is that not only do I love Persona, I love Atlas games in general. I think they have some bangers, and one of them is Devil Survivor. I've been playing this on my 3DS. It's such a fun game, and I saw that there were these volumes used on thrift books, and I snagged them. I was like, I need these, and of course these are out of print, so I don't think I'm going to actually complete this collection at all, but I just love having these. Another video game franchise that I love is Zelda, clearly. So I have volume 1 of Four Swords. This was another book that I picked up while I was out in St. Louis. I went to Half Price Books. I found it. I'm so happy to have it in my collection because it reminds me of my fun trip to St. Louis, but it's also just a fun story in general. And I also have volumes 1 and volumes 2 of Ocarina of Time, and I love the artwork for all of these Zelda series. I think the artwork is phenomenal. I think though my favorite adaptation has to be Twilight Princess because the art in it is truly next level. It's truly amazing. The story pacing, it's great. I love it so much. I have volumes 1 through 6 and I need to get more, but I'm trying to get them used, which is a little bit difficult, but I'm hoping that with the new box set that just came out, there are people who are looking to get rid of their old copies and hopefully I can snag them and complete this series. Now let's move on to this. This is the Minish Cap and Phantom Hourglass. This was a really fun trip. So we were out at a Barnes & Noble, and I want to say it was one of my first times physically shopping for manga, and my partner was with me and just encouraging me to just buy. Which is like, you know, maybe not the best advice, but we were having a lot of fun, and I saw this series and they just really encouraged me to pick it up. So I always think of that fun trip, and I think of getting into manga, really enjoying buying it in person, and yeah, it has good memories attached to it. So I really love having this physical volume here. All right, and on this next shelf, we continue the video games back there, but you can't really see it, so I'm gonna go ahead and move the stuff that's in front. So here we have the last 2 volumes in my video game collection. So I have the official case books for the Ace Attorney series, and these are like fan-made stories, and they're just put together in collections, and honestly they are definitely not necessary, but being the Ace Attorney freak that I am, I had to pick them up. Ace Attorney is one of my favorite visual novel series, and it really got me into the genre in general of visual novels. I think visual novels are great because if you are a fan of reading and a fan of video games, it's kind of where the two collide and become one, and I love it so much. So if you are a big reader, which I'm assuming you are because you're watching this, I would highly recommend getting into Ace Attorney because you are going to enjoy it. I recommend getting into visual novels in general because it's a great way to consume a story while playing a video game. So yeah, that's my little PSA. So Ace Attorney is the end of the video game section, and from here we just kind of move into miscellaneous slice of life. They are from different demographics, but I decided to just put them all together based off of that umbrella genre. So here we have volumes 1 and 2 of Blue Period. I have not picked up the rest because my local library recently purchased most of the series, so I just don't see a need to purchasing them for my collection. I intend to read more of this series using my local library, which is very important, by the way. I highly recommend going to your local library. All right, so next up we have March Comes In Like a Lion. I was able to pick this up physically in store, which I was so happy about. It was literally the last volume. A lot of people were talking about it, and I think this is one that definitely deserves the hype. I also have volume 2, which I went to multiple bookstores looking for this one. I went to like a small bookstore, and thankfully they had it, and I was so happy. And I love supporting smaller bookstores. It's nice to be able to do that from time to time. And next up we have Hirayasumi, another title that I got into because of manga YouTube. It was super popular. Everybody was talking about it. This is another series that definitely deserves the hype. I have the second volume, but it's currently on my TBR cart. It's a great slice of life. Definitely recommend it. And then I have BL Metamorphosis. I was able to get this first volume for like $5. I've just been trying to get this series used, which is a little bit difficult, but I think it's worth it. I really tried to get used when possible because I think it's just better for my wallet, and I just think giving a book a second life is great. And next up we have Cat Gamer, which I got into purely off of an impulse purchase. I got this volume in store, and it was on a day that I was prepared to drop a lot of money, but a lot of the things that I wanted to pick up just weren't there. So I was like, I need to find other things to buy, and I saw this and I literally just bought it. I didn't know anything about it, but I'm happy that I just picked it up because it's a slice of life series that I just like really enjoy. I am a lover of cats. I think cats are the most wonderful things on earth. Anytime there is a cat manga, I am on it immediately. I myself have 3 beautiful cats, and I just love surrounding myself with more stories about cats. I'm just obsessed. And also my cat Midna looks exactly like this cat right there. So that's another fun reason why I keep picking up the story. It feels like I'm reading about my cat or something because she literally looks exactly like that. All right, and from slice of life we go into shoujo. This series has such a silly story, so I got into Otomen purely because I believe it was the first 3 or 4 volumes were like extremely cheap. And on top of that, I had a coupon that I could use. So I think I literally spent like maybe $4 or $5 or maybe even less. I can't remember. It was such a low amount. So I was like, you know what? Who cares? I'm just gonna read it. If it's not that good, it's fine because I didn't put that much money into it. And I ended up getting obsessed. So this is an impulse purchase that was a very wise decision because it is literally one of my favorite shoujo series. This shoujo series is about gender and kind of just how ridiculous gender stereotypes are. I can see a lot of people maybe not liking this series because it does play into those gender stereotypes, but I think that the series is just basically making fun of the fact that we are so specific on how women or men or anyone should act, and I just really enjoy it so much. This is a series that I'm going to reread it like a bunch of times because it just has such a special place in my heart. So I got the first like 4 or 3 volumes super cheap. And from there, I just tried to get used as much as possible. A lot of these are like ex-libraries, so they came from like different libraries around the country, which I think is pretty fun. I'm someone who personally does not mind getting like ex-library volumes because to me what matters is just that it's readable. And also for series like this that are out of print, I just want to get my hands on it. I am not worried about if it has a marking here or there. I just want it. This volume specifically, volume 16, it's probably the most difficult volume to get out of this entire series. But I just kept tabs open on thrift books, kept checking for this volume, and at some point it was available, and it was not in good condition. It had a bunch of library stickers and all of that, and a lot of gunk on it, but I cleaned it up real nice, and I'm happy with it. I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, this series is, I think, maybe the first shoujo series that I actually read. I don't think I read any other shoujo series before this, and then it got me really into shoujo. Alright, and then from shoujo we move into some more shoujo, but it's in the fantasy subgenre. So I'll go ahead and remove this so we can see the back row. Well, actually this isn't shoujo. This is, I guess, just an action fantasy series. So Soul Rescue is by the same mangaka that did Otomen, and that is the main reason why I picked it up. This is a series that honestly is not that good, but I just really want to kind of be a completionist when it comes to Ayakano's works. I am actively looking for the Japanese volumes of hers that have never been translated because I just adore this mangaka so much and I want to have as much of her works as possible. Next up we have Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, which is another like fantasy supernatural series, and I got into this because of you guys. A few of you guys recommended this series and I picked it up for Halloween season and I really enjoyed it. I have volumes 1 and 2 and I think this is a series that I'm actually going to move to reading digitally. In general, actually, this is a little announcement. In general, I'm going to be moving more towards digital reading than physical reading. Continuing with fantasy, we have Gakuryo Bed and Breakfast for Spirits, and I have volumes 2 and 3, which are on my TBR cart yet to be read. And I have The Demon Prince of Momochi House. I have volumes 1 through 6, but the other 3 are on my TBR cart. And if you watched my most recent reading vlog, you would know that I'm not a huge fan of this series, so this is probably going to go to a free little library and hopefully someone else can enjoy it more than I do. And the next fantasy series we have is the Savior's Book Cafe Story in Another World. I forget exactly where I heard of this, but it was really popular for a bit. A lot of people were talking about it and just saying that it's like the ultimate like cozy series and that it's especially for people who love reading, like people who are bookworms. So I was like, yes, that is me, sir. And I picked up the entire series. I got most of it used, and then I think I got like maybe the last few physically in store, and that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to just see it in person. I've said that a million times, but guys, I seriously don't get to go book shopping in person that much. So anytime I do, I am in heaven, really. And the next fantasy series I have here is Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture. This is another series that was really making the rounds. It was very popular. A lot of people were talking about it. That has kind of died down since, but this is such a great series and I just really enjoy it. The story is about this college kid who can hear lies, and he ends up in like a friendship with his professor, who's like a folklore professor, and together they kind of like try to discover the truth around folklore stories and urban legends and ghost stories and all that fun stuff. It's really great. All right, and the fantasy collection continues with Witch Hat Atelier. This is a series that I read first at my library. They only had volume 1, and while I was looking for stuff to read, this really caught my eye because the artwork is phenomenal. It is hands down the best artwork I've seen. And I took volume 1 home from the library and I was just obsessed. I was like, why do they not have all the other volumes? I just decided to go all in and start buying them physically. And I love the characters. I love the story. I think it's phenomenal. And this was the newest volume, volume 12. I pre-ordered this and as soon as I received it, I read it right away. It's just such a wonderful story. And then I also have the spin-off, which is Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen. This is more of a cozy feel. We just basically follow the characters as they make meals for each other and spend time together around the dinner table, and it's really great. I also, as you can see, have like tabs on these volumes, and that's because I was looking for some manga recipes, and I actually made a video where I recreated foods from some of my favorite manga series. So if you haven't checked that video out, go ahead and check it out. It was a lot of fun to film. Alright, excuse the poor lighting, but I haven't installed lights on these shelves yet, and this is proof that I probably should, but I'm gonna move these and I'll show you guys what's on the back row. Alright, so here we have like historical manga. A lot of this is shoujo. Here I have Usotoki Rhetoric, and I have volumes 1 through 8, and this is a series that I got into because of Colleen Manga Rex. They made a video talking about this series, and after I watched it, I just couldn't resist, and I've really enjoyed it over time. This is about a girl who can hear lies, and she moves to a different town to kind of like start over and bumps into this detective here on the cover, and they form a unstoppable duo when it comes to solving mysteries. I love seeing their friendship blossom, and some of the mysteries really had me scratching my head, so that's always fun too. I also have volume 1 of the Apothecary Diaries. This is probably my most controversial opinion, but I'm not a huge fan of this series, but I think maybe I'm going to read the light novel and see if I enjoy the story better that way. Alright, and here we have my beloved. I love this series. I love this series so much. This is Requiem of the Rose King, and this is by the same author that did Ottoman. I've noticed that she really likes to talk about gender, it seems like, because this is a historical manga that takes place during the War of Roses, and our main character Richard is intersex, and he is basically regarded as a demon because of that. He is ultimately rejected from his mom because his mom doesn't see him even as a person. Like, Richard is someone who is intersex and identifies as a man, and that's a big struggle for him. And it's interesting just seeing how that plays out, how he matures. I just really enjoyed seeing him grow throughout the story. The story is very painful, has a lot of trigger warnings, but this is like a series that is very near and dear to me because I found Richard to be very relatable as a non-binary person. He is not non-binary, but a lot of his like struggles with gender dysphoria and things like that, I could empathize with that. I love this series. I'm going to reread it so many times. It is a big part of my collection that I just love. I love this series so much. This is definitely one that is just, it's not budging, it's staying with me forever. So I'm gonna actually change up the way I'm showing you my manga collection because it's just very hard to film in these like low shelves. From historical manga, we move into the LGBT manga collection, and we have Claudine, which is a manga by the same mangaka that did The Rose of Versailles, and this has some trans representation. It's not perfect. There are definitely some controversial pieces to this and a ton of trigger warnings. I wouldn't recommend this necessarily because it's not the best when it comes to trans representation, but it did make waves because at the time it came out, which was like the 80s or something, the topics of trans characters or trans identities, like it just wasn't really talked about at all. So I think that's why this one shot is regarded highly. And after that we have Until I Meet My Husband. This is a one shot that I picked up at one of my favorite small bookstores. It was just such a happy day. I remember going to the bookstore and just enjoying like the smell of like coffee and pastries because they also have like a little cafe attached, and I was just like in a mood to shop. I didn't have anything specific that I wanted, but I saw this and I picked it up because it just looked really interesting. I definitely want to read like the book that this is based off of. The person that this is about wrote an autobiography about their experience like meeting their husband and being gay and all this kind of stuff, and I definitely need to pick it up on my Kindle. And next up we have The Other World's Books Depend on the Bean Counter. I believe that this is my first isekai series ever, and I got really into it because so many people were talking about it on MangaTube. So many people. Like it's like a religion, guys. I started picking it up physically in store, and yeah, I just have good memories of reading this, like binging this series and having a lot of fun with it. And next up we have our Not So Lonely Planet Travel Guide. So this volume has a really fun story attached to it. So I was like not in a great mood one day and I decided to go to like my local Walmart because they started putting manga in their book area, and this was like the first time they'd ever done that. I've never seen it before, and they had just a few things, and one of them was this series, and I didn't know anything about it, but I knew that it was BL, and I was like, okay, I'm picking it up. And I literally got a snack that matched like the cover of this volume. So I got like strawberry Pocky because it matches the red. And I just had a nice time reading and eating Pocky. And I am now currently obsessed with this series. So I'm very happy that I decided to go out and cheer myself up with this volume because this series is just so good. It's like a golden retriever. It is just so cozy, so heartwarming, so pure, so sweet. I am so excited for the next volume that's coming out next year, but unfortunately I don't think it's coming out until like March, which, oh well, I'm gonna have to deal with that. Alright, and then we have more LGBT stuff down here. So we have El Verano en que Hikaru Murió. This is in Spanish, obviamente, and I love this. I love this series so much. So I was very curious about this. A lot of people were talking about it, and at the time I wasn't really into horror. I was just like, you know what, that is not my genre. Turns out it is my genre. But I found this used for a good price, and it came with like a little art insert. So where is the art insert? Hello? It came with like this little insert, and I just really wanted it because a lot of people at the time were getting like the special edition from Kinokuniya, and I just don't have a Kinokuniya near me, and I was feeling left out. But I got the Spanish edition, and it's really good. It's a really phenomenal, scary, spooky story with some BL undertones, overtones, whatever you want to call it. Next up, we have our dining table. This has to be my favorite one shot, probably. It's just very good, very wholesome, and it's great. All right, and then we have Crossplay Love Otaku X Punk. I picked this up because of Tsuki Notes. I'm sure you can see a trend. I picked up a lot of these series because I heard other manga tubers talk about it. That's how I find out about all these fun series. I picked this up on like thrift books for like $5. Amazing, because this is $13.99. Okay, I think I'm gonna be buying the rest of this series digitally to be a little bit nicer to my wallet. And then next up we have the guy she was interested in wasn't a guy at all. I pre-ordered this and I'm happy I did because this thing is $20. This thing is $20 and you can actually buy it digitally for $6.99, so I think I might also start reading this digitally instead, but this is amazing. It's so wonderful. That's all I can really say. It gives me butterflies. It reminds me of being in high school and having my first crush on a girl. It reminds me of, listening to music on the bus and just thinking that I'm so unique and cool because I listen to Nirvana. Like, it reminds me of those times. So I cringe a little bit when I read it, but it's It's pure. It's a fluffy, fluffy pancake with butter and maple syrup, and I love it so much. And then next up we have some BL from Miss Fumi Yoshinaga. And I love Fumi Yoshinaga, but some of her older titles, girl, what were you thinking? I picked up The Moon and the Sandals, and this is a little bit of a problematic BL. It's a bit controversial, not her best series, but also not her most controversial. So do with that what you will. I don't recommend it though. So the next series in my LGBT collection is What Did You Eat Yesterday? I have all the volumes up to date. I've mentioned What Did You Eat Yesterday on my channel multiple times, and I still love this series so much. It's one of my favorite slice of life series, and honestly, probably my favorite BL. It follows two men in their 40s who are dating and living together, and we are essentially invited to their dinner table where they talk about work, and they also grow through many shared meals together. I also have She Loves to Eat and She Loves to Cook. This is one of my favorite GLs of all time, and I have most of the series digitally. I just started picking them up physically because I felt like it, and this series is gorgeous, so that's why I just have this singular physical volume. I also have Antique Bakery by Fumi Yoshinaga, the same mangaka that did What Did You Eat Yesterday, and I got these volumes all used. These are out of print, so some of them were a little bit hard to find. This one I received without a dust jacket from Thrift Books, and it didn't say it didn't have a dust jacket, so anyways. And then I have volume 2. This is my favorite volume out of the series. After this, the series honestly goes into mayhem and it becomes a little bit trash-like. This series unfortunately gets very problematic and very gross in my opinion in the last 2 volumes. The last volume tried to save it, and I think it was okay. The worst volume was volume 3. Oh, volume 3. This was terrible. So I don't recommend this series. I just have it because it's Fumi Yoshinaga, and the only way I could read this series was physically, and I was just very curious, but it's definitely not my favorite. Fumi Yoshinaga has gotten much better recently with her series What Did You Eat Yesterday? If you want to read any of her series, definitely read that. I wouldn't recommend the older ones. And then this shouldn't be in the LGBT section. This should actually be in the historical section. This is The Rose of Versailles, which I read in my latest manga reading vlog, and I really enjoyed this. I'm very happy to have this in my collection. I do wish there was a digital version because these volumes are so pricey and they take up so much space and they're heavy. And the next section on these shelves is my manhwa section, and I have Villains Are Destined to Die. I picked up a lot of these volumes from my local Walmart because they had them, which was kind of surprising. And once again, I got into this series because of Tsuki Notes. I love watching manga tubers and hearing their recommendations, hearing about what they're reading, because that is the way that I find out about so many of these series that I just really enjoy. So yeah. And I am very excited for the next volume, which is going to come out next year in February. I already have it pre-ordered because this series has me in a chokehold. And I just have very fond memories associated with reading this. I would just stay up late and just binge these and have so much fun. So yeah, whenever I see these, I think of all the fun I had reading them. And then we have The Restorer's Home. Yes, so this one was very random. I saw one Instagram post about it and I don't even remember who posted about it, but I was like, ooh, this sounds interesting because it's about a guy that like restores broken objects, and that sounded really interesting. And then he like goes to like a old like property and is like trying to restore it, and then he kind of like interacts with all the spirits associated with the items. It has such an interesting story, genuinely, but this is kind of a mess because unfortunately there are so many typos. On top of that, the book itself just doesn't feel high quality. The pages are thin. It just doesn't feel worth the money. It does not feel worth $20. So I think I will continue reading this digitally though and see how I enjoy the story going forward. And then we have Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. This is one that I picked up at Half Price Books in St. Louis on that road trip I mentioned earlier. And yeah, I got this for half price, so I got it for $10 rather than $20, and it was basically like new. It was in perfect condition. I really enjoyed this series. I intend to continue it, and I'm just really curious with what's going to happen next in the story. So those are all of my physical volumes on this shelf area here, but we still have some more over on my other shelf. So let's go check those out. All right, so at the top of my bookshelf, we have some light novels. We have volume 8 of Heaven Official's Blessing. This is the special edition. I read this series mostly digitally, and I just decided to buy the last volume physically. And this is a series that I got into because of Throne of Pages. She reads a lot of Danmei, and I wanted to read Danmei too, so I picked up this series, and I absolutely love it. I have great memories of reading this. I would literally read one volume in the span of 2 days, sometimes in one day. I would read the entire thing because it was just that good. And Little Mushroom, I'm trying to remember how I heard about this Danmei, because this one is not as popular, but it is a fan favorite. It took me a while to get this volume because it is incredibly hard to find, and now unfortunately the publisher Peach Flower House has gone out of business, so this is officially out of print. You cannot buy this anymore brand new. You have to get it secondhand, but you can also get it digitally, and I highly recommend it if you're into Danmei and sci-fi, because it blends the two together so beautifully. And I'm someone who's not super into romance, so this type of romance was perfect for me because it wasn't over the top. It was just the right amount. And here we have the I think it might be called manhwa. I got it because it is so beautiful and stunning, and the art is great. And I also have the Other Worlds books to pin on the bean counter, volumes 1 and 2, in this light novel format because I really enjoyed the manga and I wanted to read more content, and I really enjoy the light novels. It might be silly to be reading the light novels and the manga both like at the same time, but I really enjoy the story and the world so much, so that's what I'm doing. And here is where I have all of my One Piece collection. So One Piece, where do I begin? I got into this thanks to my local library. Thank you so much. I found the first 5 volumes at the local library, and that's all they had. I read them, I got obsessed, and I was like, you know what? I need to collect all of them. So I started getting them in this omnibus format because this is the cheapest way. It's even cheaper than box sets, interestingly enough. I love seeing all of this. Like, this is great. And I have not read all of these. This is the one that I'm currently on. I'm in the Thriller Bark arc. Not my favorite arc. Not my favorite. Some of the characters, annoying. Don't like it. Yeah, so I think that's why I've kind of procrastinated reading it, because unfortunately I have hit a point in which I'm like a little bit disappointed with the story, but I'm gonna push through because I know that there are some great story moments waiting ahead for me. So yeah, here's my One Piece shelf. I love it so much. All right, and down here on the second shelf, we have more amazing series. I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but this shelf is basically regarded as like my favorites shelf, which is why there's One Piece and then all of these Yuki Kamatani series and Yokohama Gaida Shikiko, because they belong on this shelf. These are my favorites. I do have more favorites on the other shelf, of course. I've had to move some things around. Not everything could fit on here, but this is what we've got. So I've got Nabari no O. So the way that I got into or aware of Nabari no O is because I had just finished reading Our Dreams at Dusk by Yuki Kamatani, and I wanted to read more by them, and I basically just looked up all of the manga they've ever written, and this was one of them. I started collecting this without realizing how expensive it was going to be. The first, second, third, fourth volume I got at like an okay price. Once I got to the 5th volume, it was starting to get pretty expensive. So I was lucky enough to find a lot of these used at pretty decent prices. Oh my god, I love this series. I'm so obsessed. Every time I think about my experience reading this, I just get butterflies, honestly. Even though this series is like very dark and depressing, it gives me like really warm memories, and I really enjoyed this series a lot because it kind of talks a bit about gender. There is a intersex character who we get to learn more about and, you know, just experience in the story and hear from them and all this stuff. And like, he is my favorite character. Yoite is his name, and he is intersex, and wow, like the story moments that he has are just very powerful. Like I am speechless. I don't really know what else to say. But yeah, I was able to find these volumes at an okay price. I mean, I paid top dollar for like 9 through 12. Like they were pretty expensive. Like what? Like maybe like $50 each? I don't know actually, I can't remember. Maybe I'll do the math if I feel like it, but I only have volumes 1 through 13. I'm still on the hunt for volume 14, and honestly, if I find volume 14, that would make me so incredibly happy because it is my dream to complete this series. And next up, by Yuki Kamatani, I have Shonen Note Boy Soprano. This is another series that I read after Our Dreams at Dusk. I was looking for more of their works and found that this was available, and I have all the volumes 1 through 8. It is incredible. I love it so much. It's basically about this boy who sings soprano, and he's still at that young age where his voice is high and angelic and beautiful, but he knows that one day he's going to go through puberty, and that kind of causes like some issues, and we basically see him grow through that. There's also other characters who are going through big life moments, and yeah, it's just a great coming of age story. And this right here, this beauty, Hyrith, The End of the Journey, this is in Spanish. It is the complete box set. This is something that I honestly never thought I was going to get. So when I saw that it was available used, I jumped on it immediately. So this is a series that I read digitally on my Kindle, and I loved it. And now I'm so excited to reread it in Spanish. I haven't done it yet, but this series is phenomenal. It is one of my favorite short series ever. I feel like a lot of manga series that are super short, sometimes they feel a little bit like lacking, but this does not disappoint. I will say, however, there are lots of trigger warnings, so I will put them on screen for you to be aware of in case you want to read it. But yeah, so the series that started this obsession with Yuki Kamatani is Our Dreams at Dusk. This is a phenomenal LGBT manga. There are lots of people who don't enjoy this. There are lots of trigger warnings. There's a lot of like homophobia and issues. The characters are not perfect, but I think that the representation is great. I especially love the non-binary representation. I think it was done super, super well. I have not seen that kind of representation in manga ever before this, because oftentimes when there is like a trans character or a non-binary character, they're sometimes like the butt of the joke. Sometimes they're just like seen as like monsters or like comedy relief characters, but Our Dreams at Dusk was the first time where I was like, damn, I feel like that was really respectful, and I loved that, and as a non-binary person, I highly approve. And then lastly, we have Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko, the complete series, and these are in the beautiful, beautiful deluxe edition volumes. I love them so much. This is a great slice of life story where the world is ending. Basically, the world is being consumed by water, and we have Alpha, who is an android, and she's living through this. We basically follow her as she deals with this, as she connects with humans, as she grows. It's just very, very good stuff. And lastly, as a little bonus, this is not a manga volume, but this is an art book. This is my favorite art book that I have, and it is for Nabari no O. It is phenomenal. I'll insert a little flip through because the artwork is just so, so, so gorgeous. I think this is the only manga art book I have, and I am incredibly happy to have it in my collection. I found it secondhand, and yeah, it is one of my favorite things. So that concludes my manga collection. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun just sharing all about it, where I was, the memories that are associated with some of these volumes. I really appreciate you guys spending some time with me. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you want to watch more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. That really helps my channel. I'm trying to get to 3,000 right now. So if you guys aren't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Until the next video, make sure you're taking care of yourself, read something that you enjoy, stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.